Everybody, welcome back to another episode of FSi DFS Fantasy Baseball Picks. I'm your host, Mike 31. It's Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. Looks like we've got a nice 8 game slate here. Maybe a little bit of rain in Washington for the Nationals and Mets game, but it's only about 30%, so it should be fine there. Uh, just a note that the slate starts at 6:40, so they've included the two earlier games. It's not like a 7:05 start like normal, so make sure that you're ready for lock. First game, we have the Brewers and Philadelphia Phillies. At Philadelphia, 82 degrees, good hitting weather, wind 3 miles per hour. So I'm not really going to um, carry the ball out of the park too much. Maybe a little bit of rain this afternoon before that, but it should be dry by the time they a delay maybe, but it should be fine. So we have Bryce Wilson and Zach Wheeler. Wilson not interested in um, like a ton, maybe. I guess I have them profiling pretty good, so I have them at the top of the cheap list if you need to go down there. Uh, But I'm probably going to stay more in the high and mid range for pitching today, which is hard because there's some bats I want to pay for. So it's going to make it an interesting slate for builds. Wheeler, on the other hand, I think is a great one to pay up for. Probably the top pitcher on the slate if you can get to him. But if you want to play the Philadelphia Bats, which are more expensive than the Bats and Coors in a decent matchup here, then it's you're gonna have to make some choices. So we'll see where we go from there. Milwaukee's offense has been decent, so I think they make a great leverage contrarian stack here if Wheeler's going to be popular, especially sticking with lefties like Turang, Yelich, Jake Bowers, Frelick, Perkins. I'd probably go like with the lefties or the switch hitters. I don't know if I'd pay 5.8 for Contreras against Wheeler, the righty, or 4.7 for Adames. Hodgkin looks like he's back in the lineup too, so we'll see. You can't play both Bowers and Hoskins because they're both first base eligible. So we'll see if that changes or what shakes out as they go forward on that. Philly, I mean, I usually skip Schwarber and Cash because he's just like so boom or bust. I'd probably go like Harper, Stott, Simmons if he's in is a decent cheap option to help make the stat work, and then um, bomb and maybe I'd go four if you want to stretch it to five. I don't know if I'd pay up for 5K at for JT against a righty. When the rest of the lineup, like Castellanos, I like against lefty, so I'd probably just limit it to a 3 to 4 man stack in cash. And if I would GPP, I might stretch it out and put Schwarber in there, but I just don't like the price point in the boomer bust. I just don't feel there's the floor at 5.7 for a cash play. Next game, Mets and the Nationals, McGill and Mackenzie Gore. I think both these pitchers are in play. There's not a huge high total here. Actually, Washington's favored in this game with a 4.38 total, and Mets is 4.12. So I think you can play both of them, like I said, in the well, actually, uh, or is more in the upper range at 9K, but McGill is definitely decent in the cheap range. So both of them in play here. The Mets have actually crept up to number 4 in the last 14 days in strikeouts. So, I mean, that really helps score. If you want some savings off of like Wheeler and Screwball, then maybe that's your SP1 in cash here, especially with the Mets strikeout rate going up a little bit with JD Martinez entering and some of these other guys that they've been putting in the lineup recently. And but against a lefty, I mean, you always have the danger of like some of the power hitter righties there. McGill on the other side, like Washington, is kind of neutral with strikeouts. There are some in the lineup, and some of these lefties do have a little bit of power there, but I think he'll be fine in the mid range as a pitcher, and actually, I think a solid floor play there. So, Mets bats like I'll definitely have a righty stack against Gore here. Lindor, Alonso has always mashed lefties. JD Martinez has been good. Vientos has been good. Bader has been good. Um, Maybe Sterling Marte. You'd probably skip like Nemo in the stack there. Um, so 1 through 7 without Nemo, I think are all in play here. And then Washington bats, like I said, Abrams, if you want to pay up at shortstop, if you're going to 5-3, you might as well say 700 extra and get Ellie De La Cruz in Coors. Uh, in my opinion. But in GPP, I think I get it. But like Garcia, Winker, Ruiz, you have like a three-man stack here in the heart of the order. That's 4K, 4-1, and 2-9 that all have some power against right-handed hitters, and even Rosario you can mix in there too. And if you want to go full five-man stack in the middle of this and go like 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and throw in Gallo there at 3K in a GPP. And I don't really hate that either. So that might give you a little bit of value. Then you could get your expensive Cincinnati or Philly bats, pay up for pitcher, and be on your way potentially in a decent build. Baltimore and Toronto, nice divisional matchup here. Grayson Rodriguez and Kevin Gossman should be a decent pitching matchup. It's only 7.5 total. Baltimore's favored slightly here. They have a 3.87 run total, where it looks like Toronto's like a 3.6 something. So both pitchers, I think, are in play against lineups that potentially could do damage to them. But I think that, and my fourth favorite pitcher would be I take Wheeler and Screwball and Gore over Grayson Rodriguez, but I don't hate the play. And Gossman, I think, is 8K is probably the most solid in the medium range. Bat wise, I think you're looking at GPP on both sides. Like I said, I play Baltimore every single day just because of the potential of them. And you're probably going to go Gunner, Rushman, O'Hearn, Santander, and Kauser to skip Mountcastle. And I know Mullins is a lefty, but he's just struggling this season. Maybe he'll heat up this summer. But that's how I'd attack that. There's not too many lefties on just like Vogelbach and Varsho are the only two really. So Toronto, I think you just play your usual suspects. I always skip Vlad. He's a ground ball hitter. He just really hasn't hit for power as much this season. So I'd probably just go Schneider, Jensen, Bichette, Vogelbach, and Varsho if I was stacking five there. Detroit and the Rangers, Skubal and Eovaldi. Eovaldi is still coming back from an injury, so his pitch count's rumored to be around 60. So I don't think I can play him. Screwball, like Texas has really struggled. I mean, I didn't realize like both Houston and Texas are both below 500. It's amazing looking at the standings, like how many teams are below 500 this season that you would think would be, above 500 significantly. Maybe it's World Series hangover. They've dealt with injuries and with bats and pitching throughout the season. So we'll see. They should probably put it together by the end. And Detroit's been solid. So Scooball, I think, solidly in play. I prefer Wheeler over him for $200 more because Texas always has the potential with the power and the lineup that they can put out there, but they haven't always risen to the occasion either. So, there's that factor. Schoolball could just go out there and cruise, and he's just looked like such a solid ace this season. So I don't really fear the Texas lineup, but I respect the Texas lineup. Let's just put it that way. That wise, I think Schoolball can get to Texas, and Texas, like their bullpen's been neutral. They've been good and bad through points of the season. So Detroit, I think, makes a decent leverage stack against them. They are relatively cheap, although Green's price is getting up there at like 5.2, but like Keith at 2.8. Perez has been super solid, and the outfield is a switch hitter at 4.3. Um, Badu he has some speed and power at 3K. So there's some nice cheap pieces if you need for fill-ins in your cash lineup that I'm okay with Detroit. I don't know if I do a full stack of them. And then Texas, again, I think would be a contrarian stack. Scooble's a lefty, so I know I said it a little bit earlier that I expected the left-handed power, but it actually would be the righty. So I mean, Seager hits both sides fine. Grossman should probably hit third. Garcia is great. Heim, I probably would play Lau. Langford, like I just wish that the one in spring training shows up eventually this season. And Duran and Rivera's have some speed and occasional power too. So I mean, if you want to do a wraparound stack, they're perfectly fine. So Texas is in play, but I think it's more of a leverage stack. I'll definitely play one just in case Google has an off night. Um, but because Detroit statistically right now, I've updated the standings as you can see to the right of the stacks and pitchers there, that Detroit has had the highest ERA in the last 14 days. In fact, their ERA is 7.25, which is high. So um, definitely a bullpen to pick on. Cardinals and Houston next game here. Kyle Gibson, Justin Verlander. Not interested in Kyle Gibson. Uh, Ageless wonder here. Even though Houston's underperformed, they still have a lot of potential too. We've got a 4.75 total, so maybe it should be a little bit higher on the GPP list above Baltimore, Toronto, but just they've disappointed me so many times this season, kind of like Toronto and San Diego to have that. I just don't feel great about playing them. Like so, it's usually more of a GPP setting for me. Verlander, I think like just looking at his like projections and his ownership, looks kind of low. I think he should be okay against St. Louis. St. Louis has gotten better recently. They aren't striking out as much. They're kind of middle of the road now, where they're pretty high and they're starting to show a little bit of power, and they could throw a lot of lefties at you. But like Matt Carpenter's one of them, and he's kind of like Joey Gallo. Like he'll hit a home run like once in a blue moon, but probably strike out the rest of the time. Um, so like I think St. Louis is gonna be another leverage stack. I'd stick to the lefties. I wouldn't play Goldschmidt there or Arenado. Uh, but Verlander does well, but he does give up hard contact and fly balls and home runs. So he could go out there and pitch 6 innings, have 7 or 8 strikeouts, and give up 2 home runs. So if you can figure out who the home runs are in the St. Louis lineup in GPP, that's wonderful. And then Houston, like I said, against Gibson, probably the usual suspects: Altuve, Tucker, um, Alvarez, but I'd rather probably take Philly, or I'd rather probably take Cincinnati bats or Coors bats here over Houston today in this situation. Speaking of Coors, we have Cincinnati going to Colorado, and 85 degrees, so it's actually hot there. Some of these nights are like 60, so decent hitting weather and wind blowing out at 6 miles per hour. So if Andrew Abbott and Feltner, not interested really in Feltner. Abbott, like we've seen Colorado struggle, but they actually went out to LA this weekend and weren't horrible. They actually won one of the games. Uh, so there's a little bit of offense there, and some of these righties are probably better against the lefty than the lefties against a righty at times. And they're probably going to throw all but like one lefty in the lineup. It's probably going to be like 8 right-handed sets against Abbott. So uh, GPP potentially, if you want to take a shot in the low range, but it's again, I said I'm really not going to probably live in the cheap range. I'm probably going to live in like the mid range, to the high salary range for my pitchers today in cash and even GPP. I mean, GPP you can play who you want. That's the point of it. Is like trying to capture lightning in a bottle in these 150 max tournaments and go where no man has gone before. So Abbott or Felter, could they have a great game and almost pitch a no hitter or and like take down a tournament? Yes, it's baseball. Anything's possible, but the likelihood of that is probably a little bit low, especially in the weather conditions here and with these two teams. And again, like we usually fade sometimes Coors Field the first game there because it takes a little bit of time getting used to the air and the timing and stuff, and hitting the ball, and but also takes a little bit of time to get used to fielding the ball, especially for the opposing team. So Cincinnati, I think, is definitely my second favorite stack on the slate here. The pricing isn't too egregious besides Ellie De La Cruz. Oh, he's not 6.8, 6.5. Wow. I mean, that's like starting pitcher territory for like some of the low end pitchers. So I don't know if I'll get there. I like that he's like a switch hitter and like such a dynamic player, but GPP, I'd probably keep him in my stacks, but probably like Friedel at 5K is okay. Candelario like at 4.8 there. I think that's fair. Spencer Steer at 5.9, a little pricey, but he's solid. I like that you can play him first or outfield, and Fraley at 4.9 is good. Nick Martini should be in the lineup, cheap at 4.9. Benson's been decent too, like a wraparound at 4.4. I don't think I play India against a righty with like only one lefty in their bullpen. Like I talked about before, the only lefty in the Colorado bullpens are closer and Beeks. So it's you're not going to have like people like platooned here. So, but the bullpen is the fourth worst in baseball with an ERA over 5. So I think righty lefty, it doesn't really matter. They should be able to hit against them, especially in these conditions. Colorado bats, like I said, righties here. Tovar, Rogers, Diaz the catcher, Chris Bryant. He's dusty. I can't do that. I'd probably take Doyle as my final one, or like Hunter Goodman, or like if they throw like one of the rookies out there as a wraparound at only like 3.8 is a pretty decent value. I love Rogers hitting second with the power against the lefty at only 3.4. I mean, that's almost a lock for a cash game there in second base. San Diego and the Angels, Waldron and Tyler Anderson. Waldron, the knuckleballer, he's been solid this season, and uh, the Angels have been better against left-handed pitcher and right-handed pitching, so I think he's solidly in play. Tyler Anderson, I mean, San Diego's been disappointing, but I think I got to put him on the fade no interest list today here. That they only have a 4.45 total, but I think they could definitely do some damage here. So they'd be my fourth favorite stack batting wise, and a nice pivot in cash or GPPs off of Philly, Cincinnati, and Arizona, who I feel will probably be more potent, more popular. And then the Angels, like always, I play them every single day. Also, not with Baltimore, but I haven't found the perfect pairing for them yet. And getting deep in the season, but still, I think it's just like play Baltimore every slate, play the Angels every slate, and figure out. Maybe I'll find a perfect marriage for the Angels. It's like the dating game with the Angels. Like, I usually use Cleveland, but Cleveland's not always on the slate. So once I figure it out, I'll tell you that. But just play the Angels. So probably Renfrew is like one of my favorite cheap players. I mean, he's up to 4.5 now, but he's just been so solid. Moniak is okay. Calhoun has some power, like a Hopi. Again, I usually like playing him against lefty more than a righty, but I'll still have my $1 stack of Angels today. Final game, San Francisco, Arizona. I like this game offensively because Spencer Howard and Nelson, neither one of them like really impressed me pitching wise. I mean, Nelson, I might need to move over to the fade range. I mean, I think looking at like the ones on the fade with Evaldi Anderson, um, Feltner, and Howard. I don't think any of them can get over 10 DK points. I think Howard or Nelson can at least maybe get you 10 to 12. So I'm going to keep them there in the cheap range. But again, I don't feel good about this cheap range at all. But the bat wise, I love both sides here. San Francisco, definitely righty lefty. Nelson has a 6 ERA. He has struggled. Even though Arizona has the 10th best bullpen, there's still some opportunity there. And then San Francisco bat or Arizona against San Francisco. Uh, just the lefties. Carroll starting to come around. Marte had 2 home runs yesterday, an amazing game. Jack Peterson mashes righties. Uh, Walker at 5K might leave off there, but McCarthy batting 6 at 3.5. Uh, Definitely at least a 4-man stack with the righties and maybe throw like Walker or I'd probably go Gurriel if I have no, I wouldn't have an outfield spot because I'm taking up 3 outfield spots already with that. So I'd probably play a one-off or yeah, yeah. I'm only going 4 Arizona. I don't know if I can get the 5th one in there unless another bat comes in for some reason. So they're my third favorite stack on the slate. So, like I said, like there's some great pay up in Wheeler or Skubal. I think Gore with the Mets striking out recently is great in the high range, and then Rodriguez against Toronto is in play. In the medium range, Gossman against the Orioles a little bit scary, but he's been solid since his injury and slow start to the season. Verlander's old, but gets it done. Will probably give a couple whole runs, but McGill and Waldron are super solid there in the middle range. Cheap range, the guys are there if you want to dabble in there, and then you know who my fades are. Top stacks, Philly, but expensive. Cincinnati, some of them are expensive, but there's some reasonable ones. But first day in Coors, they're not always the juggernaut they are the second and third day. Arizona love the matchup here in San Diego. I think against Anderson has some potential, especially the righties. GPP, Colorado, Baltimore, Toronto, and Houston are solid. And the cheap ones, San Francisco should be solid. Mets, if Gore is going to be popular, it could be a contrarian one, but I like that there. And then there's a nice, really cheap um, five-man stack that you can make from Washington, and I always play the Angels, and then Milwaukee, Texas, Detroit, and St. Louis just leverage. So let's look at the Bills, get you on your way for your Monday. So I'm taking Wheeler as my SP1. And Schoolball's fine too. And then have to figure out who you want for your SP2. Uh, even though I'm using McGill and Waldron in the GPP lineup there, those are two are solid in play there also for cash. Um, and I'm probably sticking the medium range for that, not down to the cheap one. So give me Arizona and San Francisco in cash. Again, if you want to pay up for Philly and we will have to find some cheap fill-ins and maybe some of those Washington or San Francisco guys who mix and match, but you can't like really stack. There's some really cheap Mets at the bottom of the order positionally that would fill into a decent Philly or Cincinnati stack. I tried the builds, and what I came up with I liked the most was this Arizona game with a 9 total against two bad pitchers. So give me Baylor, give me Walker there, but I don't know. I'm thinking maybe I come off Walker and maybe go with a one off at first base outside the stack because I really who's the first baseman for Trenton Brooks. He's only 2.5, so maybe and that definitely get me up. He could get me like 5 to 7 DK points there. So maybe I'll come off Walker and I will go. Uh, it'll help me get up to a better SP2 there. But Marte is definitely a lock in there. Third base, you could go Suarez or you could go Chapman. Shortstop, Brett Wisely at the bottom of the order for San Francisco is only like 2.8. I don't think I'd go Newman for Arizona, so that might be another one-off candidate. But outfield solid, Carroll, Peterson, Yastrzemski. If you don't want to go Yastrzemski there, if you have a little bit more salary, you might go Jake McCarthy. I'm fine with that also. GPP, give me McGill and Waldron, and then like I said, I'm taking Cincinnati there. So Steer, Candelario, Fraley, and Friedel. I'll let you make the choice on De La Cruz to try to get up to 6.5. You'd probably have to punt catcher in the other outfield position there, but Brandon Rogers is super solid, batting second at his price point against the lefty for Colorado at Coors Field. Gonna lock him in there. So we got for you. If you have any questions, put them in the chat below. Hit me with Mega Roller 31 on X, formerly Twitter. If you want more information on FSi DFS, go to the description of the video, and you can get into the link into our pricing package. I have some really decent prices on things for you. And we're also running a promotion. Check out our X page. Go back a couple days. Matt Noah came up with a contest for we are approaching where I think we're at like 4,914 or something. So I think we're only like 86 away from hitting 5,000. So we just want to thank all of you who have subscribed or anybody that wants to be a new subscriber. All you have to do is take a screenshot of that you have subscribed to our website or to our website, to our YouTube channel, and send it to promos at fsidfs.com, our email address, and within 24 hours, somebody will email you a coupon back for a free 1 week VIP that gives you access to all the sports. So that's what I got for you. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an amazing Monday. Good luck in your contest, and I will see you next time.